Hello everyone, I'm Daniel Fish with Historic Beverly, and welcome to another one of our Spotlight Talks. Today, we will be discussing the parlor located inside the John Cabot House, and we will be going over who the Cabots were, the purpose behind this parlor, and the items that are on display. With that, let's begin on our first slide. This is the Cabot House. John Cabot, the patriarch of the Massachusetts Cabots, came to Salem around the beginning of the 18th century and settled first in Salem. He managed a mercantile business in Salem, training his sons in the family business. His youngest, Joseph Cabot, born in 1720, remained in Salem until his death in 1768. After his death, Joseph Cabot's widow, Elizabeth Higginson Cabot, moved to Beverly with 8 of her 9 surviving children. Her son, John Cabot, well known for his maritime trade and ownership of privateering ships during the Revolutionary War, built the house and has been Historic Beverly's headquarters since 1892. The John Cabot House is a Georgian-style mansion built in 1781 during the Revolutionary War. It was the first brick mansion built in Beverly. The wealth of the Cabot family is reflected in the architecture of the house and the beautifully carved paneling and decorations such as the Dutch tiles surrounding the parlor fireplace we will see soon. The Beverly Bank was founded here as well in 1802 and conducted business in this building until it moved to another building at 175 Cabot Street in 1868. Edward Burleigh purchased the property from Beverly Bank as a gift for his wife, Harriet Lincoln Burleigh. The property was eventually willed to the Historical Society by Edward, and it now serves as a museum of Beverly history, a research center, a regional visitor center, and headquarters of Historic Beverly. Now, upon entering the front door of the Cabot House, located at 117 Cabot Street, you are met with a beautiful foyer with high ceilings typical of the Georgian style architecture. From here, most guests would be guided to a door to the right of the staircase that leads into a highly decorated parlor. And let's go inside. Now that we've entered the parlor, let's talk a little bit about it. The word parlor derives from the French word parlor or parler, which means to speak. It entered the English language around the turn of the 16th century. Often, visitors of the house would be brought to this room to converse with whomever they were visiting. And in the 18th and 19th centuries, it was an achievement to have a parlor room because it was a marker of social status, evidence that you had risen above the majority who lived in a 1 or 2 bedroom home. Naturally, first impressions were important, and pieces you see in this room show that fact. The sharp geometric angles shown on the beautiful carved paneling adds another layer of beauty and detail of wealth. It would have been furnished with elegant furniture and decorative objects from around the world, a showplace to emphasize the success of John Cabot. The furniture often focused on style over function. Visiting someone in their parlor was meant to encourage folks not to overstay. And we can see an example of this with the teak chair that we'll be looking at later. Now, as you move around the room, you will see the value of social life represented in each object. If we turn to our right, we will see this desk made of mahogany and pine that was owned by Captain Moses Brown. Moses Brown was a captain in the Revolutionary War and on the board of directors for the Beverly Bank. making him an overall prominent Beverly local that we will be discussing later on. The desk itself is attributed to a student or the workshop of the cabinet maker John Cogswell, as it resembles his style. On top of this piece is a bust of John Milton, an English poet, which was carved by Simone Skillen of Salem. John Milton is the author of the poem Paradise Lost, which depicts the fall of mankind, the fruit of the tree of knowledge, and the struggle between God and Satan. This may be in relation to Brown's connection with his uncle, Reverend Thomas Balch, who paid for his college, as well as acted as a father figure when Moses Brown's father passed when he was 11 years of age. This may also speak to Brown's experience with the Revolutionary War and his assignment of captain of a militia at the age of 27. Now, while we don't do this often, we will show you the inside of the cabinet as well. Here you can see a multitude of sliding drawers, hidden compartments that are also tucked away, and aspects of the cabinet that are not typically on public view. The next piece we're looking at is a lever-operated music box that plays 8 French songs, including Mina Polka by Strauss, Valse les Combes, and La Traviata. The user would turn the lever and the music would play through the air cylinders. The music was produced by the use of a set of pins placed on a revolving cylinder so as to strike the tuned teeth of a steel comb. It is currently resting on a card table built around 1800 to 1820 that has a folding top to open up into a bigger table in order to play card games on it. Now, if we continue to our left, we will see this grandfather clock from the 19th century. This clock on view of the parlor is attributed to Simon Willlard, who was a well-known clockmaker working in Grafton, Mass. While he often made the cases, he would usually sign his work, indicating that this is likely not one of his designs and possibly a forgery. The dial and the mechanics of the clock were often made by somebody else, and this one is believed to be made by William Sykes, as it says so on the clock face. Owning a clock made by notable craftsmen was a sign of wealth due to the intricacy of the clockwork, carving of the wood, and implementing a decorative clock face. Now, let's go over to the fireplace. Wealthy businessmen like John Cabot had trade relations with Europe, the West Indies, and the Far East. Merchants who traveled to these exotic destinations took great risks and often lost their lives and cargo. Items that we'll talk about, such as the Dutch tiles, Buddha figures, Chinese vase, and the Anglo-Indian armchair, are just a few examples of what Beverly merchants brought home from their adventurous voyages. These luxurious objects were displayed in the sitting room of a mansion, showcasing the wealth of a family. Now, the painting seen here hanging above the fireplace in this photograph is of the ship Americana, titled Ship North America, painted by the artist Joseph Whitman, circa 1878. It has since moved to our foyer and welcomes you as you enter the house. However, nowadays, we have a painting of a Beverly Sunset sitting above the fireplace from a view from Folly Hill. This oil painting is in rather poor condition and is an item listed in our Adopt an Artifact program. Our treatment goal is to return this painting back to its original appearance, and we have secured treatment proposal estimates to conserve the painting, and those estimates show the price for conservation work to be around $5,300. which is why it is listed in our Adopted Artifact program. We simply do not have the funds in our budget to fully conserve the historic piece. The preservation work needed for this painting will focus on resolving the darkened paint, the gathering of dirt and dust, and the prior water damage that is caused to these issues. For more information about the Historic Beverly Adopted Artifact program, you can visit our website via the link seen here on the screen and in the description down below. Now let's discuss the teak chair. This is a different type of object. This chair shows beautifully carved foliage and animals such as lions and cranes. Lions are sacred animals for all Hindus in India, and they also appear on the emblem of India. The Asian lion, which originally emigrated from Persia to India, was almost exterminated by the British colonial officers and Indian rulers in the mid-1800s. Cranes are another important animal in this Indian culture, and they are considered to be symbols of marital fidelity because they are mate for life. Now, if you were to see this chair in person, you would notice that there are some seams indicating that this is made of multiple pieces of teak wood. We have some close-up shots to the right of this slide where you can see the intricate carvings of two lions surrounding an emblem with a crane in the center focus. Now, moving just to the left of the chair, and you can see it in this slide as well, we'll be talking about the Chinese vase. This vase is another stunning Asian import in our collection. It was owned by Augustus Clark, who asked his friend Captain Pyam Lovett to bring home a pair of these fine objects to be displayed in his apothecary shop in Beverly. Since Captain Lovett was held up in the Far East for an indefinite amount of time, he sent the vases back to the US with his friend, Mr. Wallace. Unfortunately, Mr. Clark had to write these following lines. Quote, "The vases arrived safely, but Pyam Lovett, my friend and a former clerk of mine, with his wife and all on board the vessel were lost in a typhoon in the China Sea. This vase shows exotic birds and butterflies and other Chinese ornaments like curvy bands and bamboo tools. Flowers, such as peonies, represent riches, prosperity, and honor in Chinese culture. And the pomegranate is an emblem of prosperity, solidarity, and luck." We have some close-ups of the birds. And in this next slide, this is the other vase of the pair that is in a collection at Wheaton College. Now, turning our attention to the fireplace has us looking at these tiles that show typical Dutch landscapes with its famous windmills and reed-covered houses. They also show daily activities of people in Holland, like sailing, fishing, and skating. These Chinese-inspired porcelain tiles are commonly found in homes of this time frame. The Dutch Delft tiles, as we know them today, were the first created as wall tiles on the inside of fireplaces. Fireplaces had grown out to be real showpieces in the 16th century, but were marked by the eternally dark sooty hole. Wall tiles could be very well handled in the heat and were easy to clean and provided a bright and glistening sight for the family. However, it did not take long before more and more fireplaces were decorated with the most beautiful tiles. And from there on, the Dutch noticed that the same wall tiles were also of great use on walls that were liable to humidity stains, including the outside of the fireplace, as you see here. Now, here is another one of our items in the parlor, the Buddha. This Buddha is undated, and the most common pose of the Buddha that you find in Buddhist temples is that of the Buddha with legs crossed, the left hand in the lap, and the right hand pointing to the ground with the palm facing inward toward the body. This posture is known as calling the earth to witness, and it is the definition of the moment of enlightenment for the Buddha. On view at the Cabot House are a pair of these Buddha figures. It is not known whether they are for elite decoration and bragging rights of Orientalism within the household, or if the Buddhist philosophy was supported by the original owner of the figures. Now, if we head a little more to our left to almost come full circle, we will see these paintings of Moses and Mary Brown. The painting on your right shows Captain Moses Brown near the end of his career and was painted by famed Boston artist Gilbert Stuart. Captain Brown had been captain of the Beverly militia and served under General John Glover during the Revolution. Later in the war, he invested successfully in privateering and became one of Beverly's wealthiest citizens. A business partner of the Cabots, Brown was elected the first board of directors for the Beverly Bank in 1802, and the portrait to the left of him is of his wife, Mary Bridges Brown, and was painted by James Frothingham. Below them sits Mary's Chickering piano. Music was a form of entertainment during the 19th century, and this piano was custom built for Mary Bridges Brown, who was expected to play it on occasion to display her skills. The songbook is titled Ladies' Musical Library. It contains waltzes, ballads, and quick-step songs. The piano is decorated with gilded bronze inlay, also known as ormolu, which was done by a gilder applying mercury to a bronze object. The presentation of music in this room shows how important music is to the family and society during the 19th century. Musical instruments are another symbol of education, wealth, and prominence. Now, with that, I want to thank you all for attending this spotlight talk on the Cabot House Parlor. If you are interested in ensuring programs like these continue, please be sure to check out our website to become a member today, or text HISTBEV to the number 443-21 to donate. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at research@historicbeverly.net. Again, that's research@historicbeverly.net. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you all again soon.